Aloha nui kako, everyone. My name is Misty Sanico. I'm the communications manager for Bamboo Ridge Press. Mahalo for joining us today for this virtual dusk fall reading of Bamboo Ridge Journal of Hawaii Literature and Arts, issue number 126, edited by the fabulous Victoria Nalani Kneubuhl. So molehu in Olelo, Hawaii. Molehu is twilight or dusk, and it's a time for feasting. So we have an Ono feast of words and stories for you today. Those of you who are new to Bamboo Ridge Press, Velina Mai, welcome. Bamboo Ridge Press is a nonprofit organization dedicated to fostering the creation and appreciation of literature and art by, for, and about the people of Hawaii and the Pacific. Founded in 1978, it stands as the longest-running independent literary small press in Hawaii and one of the oldest continuously published literary journals in the United States. We publish 2 books a year, an anthology of emerging and established authors, and a collection or novel by a single author. Some quick housekeeping before we start. It's important now more than ever that we protect our creative spaces and energies. So we ask that you connect with each other tonight me kamalama, so with care and respect. Feel free to totally use the chat, share your aloha with each other and these amazing writers who are gifting us with their time and words today. Let us know where you're joining us from. If you hear something you love, don't be shy, just throw a shaka or a heart emoji in the chat or on the reactions. If a word or phrase catches you and pulls at your na'au, let us know. Let us know what, let us know why. And that's part of what makes these readings fun, is sharing those reactions with each other. There will be time for questions at the end. You can drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, or in the chat as well. We'll get to those at the end. But when all the writers are Pau reading, we will also open it up to questions and talk story. Anyone will be welcome to join us on screen or unmute. Just let me know in the chat and I'll make you a panelist too. If you experience technical issues, feel free to message us in the chat and I'll do my best to assist you. There's also a little view toggle at the top right of your screen that lets you change the view of the readers and gallery, etc. So feel free to use that. I did want to do an acknowledgement that we are on Indigenous lands and recognize the colonial legacies that are embedded in the technologies we use. Though they're central to our creative work, they also contribute to climate change, which disproportionately impacts Indigenous peoples, especially in the Pacific. So may this gathering be a time to honor Hawaii stories and Pacific Islander voices while reflecting on our shared responsibility for recognition and solidarity. Now, I'm pleased to hand things over to our wonderful guest editor, Victoria Nalani Kneubuhl. So glad she could be here. We're very lucky. Victoria Nalani Kneubuhl is a Hawaii playwright and author. She has written plays, short stories, novels, living history programs, and television documentaries. Her anthologies, Hawaii Nei Island Plays and Navigating Islands, Plays from the Pacific, as well as her 3 mystery novels, have been published by the University of Hawaii Press. In 1994, she was the recipient of the prestigious Hawaii Award for Literature, and in 2006, she received the Elliott Cades Award for Literature. Mahalo for being with us today and being our wonderful host, Vicky. You can take it away.
Well, aloha kako, ia o ko kavelina o ka ulu na ulu e ki ko'o aku nei me ke aloha. That's a greeting from Waikiki and our beautiful rain that we have here. I want to thank the Bamboo Ridge Press for asking me to be the editor of this volume of plays. Not plays, of literature. And really, I also want to thank the Bamboo Ridge for being here all these years and supporting and giving a platform to our island voices. It's so important, I think, in this world to have a place where we can tell our stories and like one of the hosts here at the ranch, you know, solidly for so many years. So mahalo iaoko. Okay, let's get right to it. So, you know, we have several writers tonight, and we're going to begin with Dorell Ben. Darrell is an interdisciplinary artist and researcher whose primary focus is on oceanic cultural tattoos, and ideas of liminality within indigenous knowledge systems. Okay, liminality, one of my favorite areas. Ben's interests are in cultural art practices, of the cultural tattoo, and indigenous stories. Ben is Gujarati Rutuman, woman from Fiji. Is it? So, mahalo.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I'm gonna start in the middle of reading Reef Heart, and I'm just gonna take cue from the lovely Instagram quote that was used and lead up to that one and see how we go from there. Yeah, okay. Where was the line? Sorry. The old fisherman waded out into her touch, no longer a schoolboy, naive and shy. He was going to be a man, to step up to the ocean goddess. He took in a deep breath and then submerged himself into her kingdom. Beneath ripples, swimming naked around him, was the woman of his reality. He could see the undulations on her body so clearly, the shimmer of her clammy skin and the sultry glow in her eyes. In a moment where time stood still for them, he stared into the face of eternity. Saucy pushed her tangled hair behind her ear and moved closer to him. Her breasts pushed softly against his aged chest, and he coughed what little breath remained in his fragile old body. They surfaced together. He gasped for breaths. He felt the pool of his lungs ache with the pain of being torn between her kingdom and his earthly prison. She guided him through to the sand, and there she laid with him. Her hands on his chest, fat little nubs fingered to the buttons on his wet clothes, soothed his heavy, heaving chest into a calmness that she seemed to understand. He sat up and looked at her once again, disbelief clouding his mind. She smiled a round smile. Her cheeks glowed red as Algaro coral. He leaned into her, and as their lips brushed against each other, her eyes widened in a fear that she was unfamiliar with. The coldness of a foreign object, piercing into her neck, gutting its way down to her chest. He regained his youth so quickly, springing to his feet and heaving Saucy's heavy body farther from the safety of her watery kingdom. He pierced his fishing knife deeper into her chest, exposing her heart. The reef had enclosed itself within her. It pumped a golden residue, and her veins were polyps. Upon its very enclosure, in the shape of a human heart, clung the very life of the ocean he had fished for many years. He dug his hands into her chest and yanked the branching coral away from her being. It throbbed gently in his palms. His eyes glistened at the magnificent jewel. He carried Saucy's reef, and the anchor that was in his own heart had been weighed. The waves weakly reached out to the beached woman's feet. Her golden blood poured out onto the sand. He glanced at her still body, a fat human whale. She was away from the clutches of the waves, he could see her shriveling. She was heavily marked with 4E from his own Temamfua. She was an embodied sea, a keeper of histories and mysteries, and he placed a tear through her elegant tapestry. His eyes widened with the curiosity only fishermen carried in their experience. Her naked, wrinkled body laid across the beach invited him. He cut out a piece of golden flesh, and a hunger he had never felt before pierced into his stomach as though it was an abysmal pit. As Saucy's flesh touched his tongue, he tasted her sweetness. Her golden blood was ambrosia, unlocking carnage within him. He hovered over her body, bit into the juiciest parts of her. And when he had his fill, her golden blood staining his face and wet shirt, he stared at the carcass. Shame swept over him immediately. He rolled her body over to the water and then watched as the waves claimed her mangled body. She sunk back into the depths, and he found himself smiling as he watched his crime disappear. Don't know, should I go into part 2 or should I stop? I feel like I should stop. So yes.
Do you want me to share the design that you created? Yeah, you can tell people about it. That is how it's associated with the story. I can do that. Hang on.
Thank you. I keep forgetting about that piece. Thank you so much, Misty.
Ooh.
So most of my stories are affiliated with a design that I make out of Rutuman tattoos, which is our 4E. And we need to go to part 2. I can read comments. So for this one, it's basically representing the coral of the reef heart. And the diamonds are particular motifs that's all across our Oceania, our Pacific. And within it is the small white piece, which is the coconut husk, the representation of a coconut. So what it just basically means is how it's the connection between all the different cultures that I added specifically for this story. So yeah, I like doing a tattoo narrative that sits with all the different stories. So this was one of the pieces that went with Reef Heart to speak about her heart and what happens to him at the end. So that's basically it. So yeah. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Our next reader is Cheryl Ann Farrell. Cheryl is a semi-retired college professor and has lived on Kauai, Hawaii for over 20 years. Besides writing, she is an avid ocean swimmer and bicycles regularly. She has published both short stories and poetry and is a member of Live Poet Society and Hawaii Writers Guild. Please welcome Cheryl.
Thank you. I just want to explain a little bit where this story came from in sort of looking for prompts for types of writing. I've entered a lot of contests, and this particular contest was run by an online publication called Grist, G-R-I-S-T, Grist. And what they look for is a genre they refer to as hope punk, which is the opposite of grim dark. So the setup is that this had to be a story about climate change. It had to be positive, which is what hope punk leans to. Because if you think about it, most futuristic sci-fi is very dystopian. And that's where the term grim dark comes from. So this is the opposite of that. This story, you only get to hear a portion of it, but this story has an uplifting ending, and it's a positive view of science fiction in the future. And so those were the instructions to get started on this. So this is my take of a sci-fi, an optimistic sci-fi. Ikawa mamua, ikawa mahope. The future is secured by the past. Yesterday's tomorrow. Poino, Ulalani barked. It was the third damage alert in the past week for the farm warehouse in the Weli Apua'a. The islands had returned to the Moku system of traditional land management division, which divides the islands into districts. The soil had become too saturated from excessive rain and too acidic for traditional farming. Each Apua'a developed its own aquaponic farm often in abandoned buildings. Ula offered to watch over all the island warehouses for the Christmas and New Year's 2-week break. I don't know why I keep getting these damage alerts in the Welly Welly warehouse. Well, weren't the last 2 alerts canceled as false alarms? Yeah, but it keeps happening. I should go in person. Oh, but it's New Year's Eve and we're entering 2200, leaving 2199 behind for good. The fireworks start at 9 tonight. Just survey the warehouse remotely. Each Apawa'a grew most of what was needed: vegetables, fruits, nuts, soybean. Fishing was abundant, though most residents ate little meat. Oh, it shouldn't be more than a couple of hours, Maka. Are any of the neighbors coming to watch fireworks? Oh, yes, the invite is for 6 p.m. Okay, I'll be home before then to help you set up. Inside the warehouse, everything appeared normal. Ula pulled up the alert on the 3D hologram app to pinpoint the location of the warning. Looks like the rainwater hose in aisle 17, green leaf lettuce aisle. The alert was again canceled as a false alarm. Ula pulled up the previous alerts to check their locations: the tomato section and the chicken coop at the opposite end of the warehouse. The chicken coop area seemed fine. A closer look at the water supply hoses revealed a section of the hose had been replaced. Well, how would this have been replaced? I didn't send anyone. Ula then went to aisle 32. The hoses were fine, but the flange gate, which regulated the catchment from the rain outside, had been welded. Who would have done that? Puzzled by these repairs, she headed to aisle 17. As she got closer, it was obvious the sprinkler system was running. She glanced at the time. It was 3:30. Sprinklers usually came on at 3 a.m., not 3 p.m. She headed down the aisle to see why the timer was malfunctioning. Whoosh! Something moved behind her. Startled by the thought someone else might be in the warehouse, she called out, "Hello? Who is here?" She waited. Suddenly, the water stopped. The work pad showed the last edited date was today, 12/31/2199. I'm the only one with clearance to adjust the programming, and I didn't do that. Whoosh! A shadow brushed by to another aisle. Who is here? Show yourself. Do it now, or I will call security and have them find you. Ula heard a door slam shut. The sound came from the southwest corner of the building. Off she went, her heart pounding, wondering what she would do if she encountered someone. She reached the southwest wall. She took a deep breath and opened the door to the storage area. The first room she entered was the seed storage room. The next room stored materials for any breakdown in the hardware. It had metal rails, boxes, ladders, etc. Finally, the last room. She turned the handle, but the door was stuck. She leaned into it and then threw her weight with a shoulder bump against it. Popped open. The room was quite small and empty. Then she realized there was a partition. Behind it, there was a bed, a clothesline, sink with running water, a small burner plate for cooking. It was neat and tidy. Aloha! I know you're here somewhere. I won't have you arrested or hurt you. Please come out. Ula heard that same whoosh, turned around suddenly. The small-statured, incredibly old person was standing in front of her. Whoa, who are you? Do you live here? Me. I call Elu. I stay here. Long time. Well, aloha, I'm Ulalani, and I'm the supervisor for all the Moku warehouse farms on island. How long is a long time? Elu was short, under 5 feet, and with the bent posture looked even smaller. His hands were gnarled and bumpy, weathered and old. I move in when this was built. This was built 15 years ago. Has it been you making the repairs in the warehouse all this time? Yes. How are you able to bypass all of our security settings? I'm smart. That may be, but you need a biometric key to enter the system. No, I use magic. Magic, I doubt that. How did you end up here? Oh, I always live by the hill, by the beach. And when everybody go back to using the mokus and the warehouses was built, my space got taken. So I live in the same place as before, just inside. Well, why do you do the repairs? It pay for my stay. Do the harvesters know you're here? No, I hide, making visible. Ula glanced at the time. It was already 5:15. Oh, geez, I must go. Nothing's going to happen today. The harvesters all return on Monday, January 6th, and we need to discuss this situation before then. So to find out the end, you're all going to have to get a copy of the issue and find out.
Yes, you will. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. Our next reader is Kathleen M. Foster. She received her MA in Literature from the University of Hawaii and has many fond memories there. She is a piano instructor, runs the annual Gateway Piano Festival, and is the newsletter editor for JASWA, Japanese American Society Women's Association of St. Louis. For fun, she enjoys writing, reading, painting, and tuning pianos. So welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you. And thank you for all my Missouri friends watching too. This story, Lucky Numbers, is completely made up. The only things that are kind of real are that I am from Seattle. I moved to Hawaii for my graduate work, and then I came back to Seattle. And then the only other part that's similar is we went on a cruise, and my family were able to do some sea trekking, which is attached big helmet over your head, and then you walk underwater with the hose that supplies the oxygen, which is mentioned here. But other than that, it's purely fictional. Auntie Min could hardly believe it. B8, I-19, N44, and G57. Yes, she had all the numbers across on the bottom row of her bingo card, except for the last one in column O. Now all she needed was for the announcer to call out her last number, and she would be the winner. The young lady wearing the white and black sailor hat was drawing the numbers and looked out over the audience, stalling, asking, "Isn't this fun? Is everyone ready to hear the next number being called?" Everyone murmured in agreement and some annoyance. Come on, thought Annie Min, just call the last number already. But she had no idea what the last lucky number was. She couldn't see her card very well, and she only knew what her first four numbers were. Yet she knew that as soon as the caller announced the next number, that would be her lucky number, and she would be the winner of the jackpot. Listening intently and almost holding her breath, Annie Min heard the caller say, "And the next number is, oh," all of a sudden she heard a loud snort close to her ear, so jolting and punctuated that she felt herself falling. With a cry, Auntie Min was brought back to the reality that she was in bed next to her husband. "Hi-ya!" she cried, realizing where she was and what happened. "Harold!" She turned around and slapped Harold on the shoulder. "Why you have to ruin my lucky number dream, huh?" "Huh? What?" Startled himself, Harold just made a hump sound and turned his back to her, clearing his throat and pulling the covers. Annie Min could not believe it. Why now? Just when she was about to discover her last lucky number, Harold had to wake her up and ruin her chance. She kept telling him to wear those nose strips, but he usually forgot. Quickly, Annie Min grabbed a pen and paper from her nightstand and carefully wrote down the numbers that she remembered on her bingo card. 8, 19, 44, 57, and then she drew a blank line for the last number. I'm skipping the part where talks about that she wants to find these 5 lucky numbers so that she can enter the Washington Hit 5 drawing. And they had a lot of some bad luck, and so she needed the money. And one of her closest friend was her stepsister, Auntie Bowell. And so I'll jump to that part. A couple of years ago, as they were walking through the casino, Las Vegas, they saw a large crowd gathered around the horse betting area, with everyone intently watching the horse parade out to the track, as the announcer commented on each one. Hey, sister, let's see if we can pick the winner, Auntie Bao said as she nudged Annie Min and nodded toward the television screens. Then she headed over to the bar to pick up a roster sheet of all the horses that were scheduled to race. Okay, if we see one we really like, we put money on that one, Auntie Min agreed. They both started watching the horses with their jockeys on the big screens. Oh, look, number 3 looked very energetic. Run for the Money is his name. Maybe we should bet on that one. Annie Bao pointed to the screen. No, not that one. Annie Min vigorously shook her head. It says he is crowd favorite, but I don't like the jockey's costume. Colors clash too much. Not good feng shui. Oh, yeah, you're right. Look, how about this one coming out? Number 4, Lucky Strike Gold. Very pretty horse. No, he looked too sleepy. Maybe too much lunch. Ay-ya, you too picky, Auntie Bao exclaimed. Okay, look at number 5, Sunshine Boy. He looked very energetic. What? Number 5 is named Sunshine Boy? He's the winner. I know it. How you know? Auntie Bao tilted her head and looked at Annie Min skeptically with her side eyes. Well, I know because when Harold and I were on our Caribbean cruise, we booked a sure excursion to St. Thomas to go to Coral World and wait a minute. What you talking about? You never even went on a cruise, Annie Bao said, folding her arms. No, in my dream. Oh, so you just know because your dream, huh? It was so clear, just like I was there, like I was in different dimension or something. Our tour company was named Sunshine Tours, and we got on bus number 5. I remember our tour guide saying to Harold, "You going to Coral World, sir?" Without waiting for answer, he pointed and continued, "Right this way onto bus number 5, sir." Don't you see? That's too much of a coincidence to be coincidence. Our lucky spirits are trying to tell us something, Bao. Auntie Min rushed through her explanation and looked exuberantly at her sister, almost out of breath. Okay, you're probably right, sister. Calm down, I believe you. Let's bet all our money on number 5. So both women went to the counter and placed all their money on Sunshine Boy. All through the race, they kept cheering and yelling. Nearing the wire, it was a race between Fortune Fields and Sunshine Boy. Go, 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 they both yelled. Come on, Sunshine Boy. Everyone on the television screen and the betting area were on their feet and cheering for their favorite. Both sisters were willing their horse to go faster. It was neck and neck. They were glued to the screen as the horses came rushing together toward the end, faster and faster. But just at the finish line, Sunshine Boy surged ahead and beat his competitor by a full neck's length. They were thrilled, jumping up and down in excitement and joy. Since Sunshine Boy had been such a long shot, both Annie Min and Annie Bao had come home quite a bit richer than when they had started. That was a couple years ago, and now the money was long gone. A year after their exciting trip, Annie Bao had passed away quite unexpectedly, and Annie Min never took any more trips to Vegas. It was just too painful. Annie Min missed her sister dreadfully, but she believed Auntie Bao's spirit was still with her in ways it was hard to articulate. So she knew that her sister would help her figure out what the last lucky number was for the hit 5 jackpot. He just had to come up with a way to find out what Annie Bao wanted to tell her. Since Bao loved everything Chinese and Japanese, Annie Min decided to spend her day off from work going to Seattle's Chinatown and paying her respects. Maybe she would find the last number there and be able to confirm all the numbers on her bingo card, which she had folded up and tucked carefully into her purse. And you'll have to buy the book to find out if she hits all the numbers.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, our next reader is Donna Henderson. Donna currently lives, writes, and makes art in North Central Oregon, where she is also a practicing psychotherapist. Send Word, her fourth collection of poems, was released in 2022 by Riparian Press. For more, visit DonnaCateHenderson.com.
Thank you, Victoria. That was such a delightful reading. Kathleen, I'm still smiling. It's wonderful. So I'm going to read the poem that's in issue 126 is the first of a series of 3 linked poems, fairly short. So I'm going to read all 3 of them. They make up a suite that actually began as a commission for a kind of larger project that is sort of yet to be completed. But the idea was to create a poem that somehow speaks for all of Pan-American experience, which includes North, South America and all of the islands. And the idea was to recognize that for all of the ways that all of us are here, got here, there's a shared history and connections to connect to. And so that was kind of a large challenge, and it took me quite some time to think about how to even enter that in a way that it was important to me to enter that in a way that was not just another white person appropriating other people's experience and speaking for them. And wow, how was I going to do that? But I, fortunately, and this is how I ended up entering it, is I absolutely love the cento form of poetry. And a cento is a patchwork poem. Originally began as a tribute poem, and is represented in several ancient traditions. And it uses the lines of a particular poet and patches them together, or maybe several poems, poets, to create another poem that both speaks for itself in a way, represents individual experience, and at the same time is a tribute to what it comes from without changing any of the language, which is important. So what I decided to do was really kind of immerse myself in the poetry of as many different representations of Pan America as I could find. And boy, did I learn a lot in the process. Learned how many, and I think there are 2,000, that ends up actually in the poem, living languages in Pan America. And so many, many different cultures that make up the occupying and indigenous and immigrant and enslaved people that we are collectively from. So the original poem is collectively entitled Pan American Suite, actually is in its original version is in 9 languages. And what I will read you is the translation of that. The original 9 languages include Guarani from South America, Brazil, Nahuatl, an indigenous language of Mexico, Diné, from the Navajo language, Lakota, as well as English and Spanish and French and Portuguese and Dutch. Some of the lines I translated, some of them I used others' translations. And so this represents the kind of collective song made out of these. The only other thing I'll say about it is that the second poem in the series departs from that a little bit. It's begins with that, but it's kind of also a sort of teaching piece that speaks from the experience of learning what I learned from taking that deep dive about really who we are as Pan Americans. So the title of the first part, which is the part that appears in the issue, is Otakahea, which is Lakota for in the beginning. And there is a epigraph that also speaks for my own process, but it comes from the poet Layli Long Soldier. It goes, "This was how I wanted to begin with the little I know." Oh, one more thing I wanted to tell you is that this is the series of linked poems that the last line in the poem becomes the title of the next poem. So they loop over onto themselves that way. So Otakahea in the beginning. This is my homeland. Here I was born and here I live my dreams. I come from everywhere and to everywhere I go. I've come to shake hands with everyone in the world and the innocent earth without good or evil. I hear what went before, but which I don't yet touch. History has its eyes on us. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, however a light may come, newborn out of sleep and forgetting. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. You will dwell in me as in your kingdom, in an eternal arrival to the country of love. 2. In an eternal arrival to the country of love. And the epigraph is, "At dawn I rise and light my little fire," which is from a Guarani poet named Alba Eriga Duarte. We have just begun to touch the dazzling whirlwind of our anger. We belong to native nations of the North American landscapes. In what's called Latin America, we are more than half who dwell. We speak in the tongues of the occupiers and conquerors, but we also speak Navajo, Inuktitut, and Arawak, Olelo Hawaii, Quechua, Kawaskar. We speak in 1,000 indigenous languages. 5.8 million alone of us speak Guarani. Write one more stanza now. Set the page ablaze with the anger in the hollow ache of our bones. Air is between these words, fanning the flame, and we too want to sing. 3. And we too want to sing. The epigraph is, "The music helps me press play," by Tacey Atsati, a Dinate poet. We sing our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the sunlit sea song past of my parents' island, carrying withered memories that go whispering in verse and ballads, that which is not censored and never will be, that which does not make sense. Of torrents upon rock, the whispering, of the task of being, the bitterness. I want to enjoy the new flowered song, the sound the stars make rushing through the sky. I want to take part in the new day and in the new dawn. For now, my wander song, the carol of robins perched on my pear tree. What if we joined our sorrows? I'm saying, what if that were joy? Thanks very much.
Thank you, Donna. Okay. Our next reader is Darrell H. Lum. Darrell is a co-founder of Bamboo Ridge Press, a retired educator and author of 2 books, including Sun and Pass On, No Pass Back. But his bio in the book reads, at various times thinks of himself as boy, other times uncle, most times it's old fat. Okay, Darrell.
Thank you, Vicky. I've asked Misty to help me read this piece because there are two voices. I might add that for the other writers out there, I think the original germ of this short piece was the Kumu Kahua monthly writing prompts. And I try to do it every time just as kind of a writing challenge. But anyway, after several versions, this is what came out. So I guess Misty is gonna be boy because she's so young and has that nice voice, and I have to be the crotchety uncle.
It's an honor to read with you.
Okay, boy, and
Whenever.
what's that?
Oh, yeah, I got first line though, yeah? So, boy and uncle, you're gonna say
yeah.
the title?
Okay, boy and uncle's state of entropy.
Okay. Uncle, what you doing in the bathroom closet?
This is my emergency COVID shelter.
COVID shelter.
Yeah, before time they had atomic bomb shelter. Then they had hurricane shelter. Now I'm making my own COVID shelter. I get my leaf blower, rice cooker, my canned spam, and last but not least, my Barbie doll.
That's not Barbie, that's her boyfriend, Ken.
I know that Barbie get chi-chis, Ken no more. He no more even get down there. I want to take off his pants and check. How he going to know, the kind with Barbie?
I don't know, Uncle. I don't know if he even liked Barbie.
Oh, maybe he the kind, only like boys.
Ooh.
No, that's okay. Everybody can like whoever they like. Maybe he can be like one fashion model or one actor. He no more football clothes or basketball clothes. He gets sailor suit. Maybe he like be one waiter at Fisherman's Wharf restaurant.
Maybe he likes sailors.
Beats me. He's supposed to like Barbie and make kiss with her like that.
What? What if she don't like him though?
Maybe he try make the kind, French kiss, that's why.
Ooh.
Don't worry. He no more tongue. I want to check that too.
Uncle, you bad.
Just saying.
So, why you get one doll?
For emergencies. In case gotta take shelter, and if my granddaughter stay in my house when I babysit her, she gotta get one toy.
Oh, you already, rice cooker, spam, and what's that? Leaf blower.
Yeah, for blow the COVID germ away. I figure you hold them in front of you and blow away all the germ like that. Especially if somebody stay talking to you and like breathe their stink on the air.
Well, Uncle, I don't like walk behind you and smell your hauna air.
Not stink. My foot's not stink.
Says who? I like borrow your blower then.
Says me. I prove it to you. Throw it. Put my finger.
No ways. And no fair, pull your own finger.
Ah. See? Not stink.
Oh, what?
Was one silent one, not stink.
I'm holding my breath. No can breathe.
Throw it. I turn on my blower. Blow the stink away. Like the Ghostbusters. They get what you call?
Oh, proton pack.
Yeah, proton shooter. Just like one flamethrower.
No, the proton packs, they like one vacuum, suck up the ghost.
Who like suck up farts? You gotta blow them away. Dilute the stink. Disperse the stinkiness. And boy, no hole in your farts, Bamba, you're gonna explode. When you when you with your girlfriend, you gotta say, "Excuse me," and go outside for cut loose. After you get married, you can let them rip any place you like, except you gotta say, "Excuse me." Auntie, she makes sure you say something and no pretend wasn't you. Besides, when only get two people in the room, no can hide.
One time we went excursion to the Lani Moo farm and see all the cows and how they milk them with the automatic machine. No need do them by hand like on the TV. You put a tit and milk the cow one squirt at a time. Mostly, everybody not paying attention to the lady talking about milk and cows and pasteurization because we only watching out for the doodoo in the grass and trying not to breathe. We only watching the ground and pull up our t-shirt over our nose. Except when the lady asked if anybody get questions, Andrew asked, "Where the cow that make chocolate milk, miss?" And Tony tell, "Stupid, the brown ones."
You know what worse than that? Cows get double stomach. They burp and they fart a lot. So much that I think all the gas will destroy the ozone. Imagine if everybody went fart at the same time. Boom! Destroy the ozone. Destroy the ozone layer and then global warming. They even give the cows something to reduce the cow farts or the burps to reduce the methane. You ever smell one cow fart? More worse than the doodoo. I heard that I read that they put little bit seaweed in the cow feed and it reduced the methane in the cows. So I figure I'm gonna eat some ogo or some Korean nori and maybe reduce my methane production. Gotta do the environment, gotta do for the environment, yeah. Save the earth like that.
Uncle, I don't think so.
That's true. Gotta cut down on the methane. But how you figure? The gas company charged me every month for my gas stove, while the whole world stay futting, making all kind methane gas so much the ozone no can handle. I can give them my methane for free. Think about it, boy. We generating so much methane, it become an environmental hazard. So stink the ozone, no can hold back. The bugger under so much pressure from the whole world fucking. Pretty soon, no more ozone layer. Instead, get one whole fat layer all around the earth, calling global fat warming. It's because your farts not only stink, it stay hot, increasing the temperature of the air.
Uncle, I never know you was one scientist.
Yeah, I study these things. I observe, I analyze, and then I make one theory that explains natural phenomenon. Gas fill the container that holds it in the shape in a state of entropy. Spread out the stink to all corners of the earth. That's why the bugger stay eating away at the ozone.
Oh, in your case, however, your foot is one unnatural phenomenon. Damn, if you bottle that, no need make bombs for drop on Russia.
Russia, China threat, maybe natural disaster too. Gotta prepare. All these things is for my emergency defense. Toilet paper, spam, Vienna sausage, cup noodle, all kind flavors I get.
Wait, what the Ken doll for again?
Kid, he tall, he blonde, he get big body, but no balls. Just like the Russians. So he want representation of the enemy.
Oh, what about the Chinese? They're the enemy too nowadays.
No need one doll for represent the Parquets. Just look in the mirror, boy. That's what the Chinese enemy gonna look like, except with bad haircut. You gotta study them for make sure you fighting all the bad Parquets and not the good Parquets.
How you going to tell?
Well, the enemy Chinese won't be talking Chinese.
Uncle, but get plenty good Chinese who can talk Chinese.
See, if they cut in line at the buffet restaurant, see if they all pale and wear big floppy hats. No like suntan, see? So if they're carrying the ukubilin shopping bag filled up with chocolate, not McNut candy, that's how you can tell.
Oh, that's not bad. Good for the economy.
You gotta check them out with the secret word.
What's the secret word, Uncle?
Ching chong Chinaman sitting on the fence trying to make $1 out of 15 cents.
Hey, that's not rude.
Only if you're not Chinese. If you're Chinese, go ahead. Call me Chinaman. I don't mind. I call everybody. Asok. Hey, Asok. How you been? You ain't eat yet. That's the Paki greeting. So what, boy? You ain't eat yet. Come, come, come. I get spam, Vienna sausage, rice.
And one leaf blower and Russian Kim.
Thank you.
So, Darrell, what was the prompt for that?
I don't remember exactly, but it might have been leaf blower and Ken.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay. Thanks. Thank you. That was so much fun. Okay. Our next reader is Terra Oliveira. Terra is a writer and visual artist from the San Francisco Bay Area. She's a bookstore manager and Recenter Press founding editor. Their work has appeared or is forthcoming in the American Poetry Review, Protean Magazine, Paperbark Magazine, and elsewhere. They are of Azorean, Portuguese, Chinese, Native Hawaiian, and mixed Eurasian descent. Welcome, Terra.
Thank you so much, Victoria, and thank you to Bamboo Ridge and Misty for hosting. I'm so grateful to be here. And also thank you so much to Darrell and Misty for bringing that story to life. That was amazing. And I've loved all the other readers so far. I'm going to read 2 poems that were published in issue 126. The first poem is The Big Island. I keep busy as a sacred act of procrastination. Do the dishes, send an email, make a newsletter, organize the bookshelf. I could become so practiced at avoidance I buy a house, pick a place to stay, walk myself in circles and live in it. I've spent so much time in running and know this will be used against me. My lack of ownership and my personal responsibility, my indecision and my failure of choice, my downward rages and exploitation somehow fallen on me, family lineages of takers and the taken from, my Chinese lineage I know nothing about, my great-great-great-great-grandfather killed by his Chinese worker, my mother given away. The coup that went down and is still going down, the ali'i resisting through my blood. Every particle becomes the big island and nothing can stop me where there isn't an end. Browsing Zillow in active volcano zones, Airbnbs all owned by haoles. Every dollar I spend I feel guilty about, and the floors all turn to lava. And this next poem is Shut Down Red Hill. I wrote it in response to a prompt. I was taking a writing nature poetry workshop through Blue Stoop. It's a literary organization in Philadelphia. And the facilitator of the workshop was Ashia Ajani, who's based in Oakland here in the Bay Area. And the prompt was to write an anti-pastoral poem. So Shut Down Red Hill. 4.5 million people visit the island of Oahu per year, watch the red sun climb down into the Pacific, escape into paradise, laugh with the water. As petroleum from Red Hill leaks under the island, into the drinking water, the Howleys drinking their Mai Tais on 382,000 acres of tropical heaven. We belong to the Aina by the right of our own kingdom, and a fifth of the land belongs to, is owned by the military. The U.S. Navy's tanks bleeding into the aquifer that the residents of Honolulu depend on. The Hanu and I exchange visits in the stillness of the hazy sea, and the Oahu water protectors cry out, "Ola ikawai, water is life on this Eden of earth," demanding the Red Hill storage facility's immediate and permanent ending. The sun waits to climb back up again, to shine victoriously through the waves. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tara. Okay, our last reader of the evening is Zoe C. Sims. Zoe was born and raised in Kailua Kona, Hawaii. When she isn't writing or studying ecology, she enjoys running trails, swimming salt waters, and cultivating plants wherever she can. She is pursuing a PhD in environmental science at the University of California, Santa Barbara. Her website is zoesims.net. Hey, Kailua girl.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that introduction, and to everyone who's read tonight and to everyone who's here to listen. It's such a joy to share in everyone's words from this collection brought to life in your own voices. I'll share the 3 poems of mine that are included in this beautiful collection. All 3 are poems that are rooted in specific places, actually specifically trails in Hawaii. 1 on Hawaii Island, and 2 on Oahu, where I also lived for a while. These poems are grounded in the places, in the land and the water and the living beings there. I hope in this Zoom room, perhaps some of these places are familiar to some of you, and maybe if they're not, you'll feel inspired to go experience the lived poetry, which is these places when you get the chance. Now that I'm living in California in graduate school in Santa Barbara, I'm holding these places in my heart. They have taught me so much, and I continue to learn so much from the Aina. It is in that spirit of humility and gratitude that I offer these poems to you tonight. The first is titled Between the Ahu, from Pu'u'o'o Trail, Hawaii Island. In the forest of leaf thrum, listen to the whispers of those who walked long before. The old grove knows. Think of the path of Pele's lava rivers, subsuming everything, yet sparing these kipuka of forest, their ancient voices. So you remember what was once everywhere and will grow again. Break out of the trees into the shocking silence of the barren field, no trail yet beaten into its stone dunes. The landscape forces you to stop. Taste the air as you look for the next ahu. Find your way there. Watch how the silver moss does its quiet work on the A'a crags, how the ohelo offers its bright berries, how the rocks are yielding slowly to roots and rain. Find your way gently. One day this will be a trail through a forest. One day you will be an ancestor. The land will remember how you walked over the raw and rocky expanse of your life. This second poem is called Divinity of Kin. It's from Nu'uanu Pali. You can get to this trail on the bus if you live anywhere close to Honolulu. I am not human. I am a mountain being. I am a mountain being. I am of branch birds and the goat-legged, the musky, feather-soft moss, leaping-hearted, sky-minded, dance-footed, wild. It is easy to cross the stream, looking not ahead at the water, only watching these feet on this stone, this one, this one. Yes, cross the stream by the laughing trunk bamboo, stand swaying, fish moving, warbler dance, and move like the water. Here, alive, divine. This last one is titled In the Chapel of Xylem and Phloem. It's from Manoa Cliff Trail. I don't know anything about music, but I am sure that this bird has tuned its notes to resound just so through bodies of cambium, echoing even song through the organ pipes, filling the arches until I am all love for my fellow mammalian lumberers waddling across the mud slick, floating through the bamboo hall, and in a backpack, the curly-haired child waving at the branches, tiny arms exulting. For it is, again, the part of the service when the Spirit takes us and lifts us. The bird song, some infinite chorus of resonant, warbling reeds as encouragement to dance, to sail through the understory, touched by young leaves, to kneel in soft soil, home to so many kin, and to lift eyes skyward towards vaulting columns, leaping treetops, exultant song. No, this sacred space, soft lit from above, is boundless. Thank you so much. Mahalo nui.
Thank you. Okay, well, that was beautiful, you guys.
That was wonderful. My goodness. Our attendees in the room, we are doing our, talk story and question time. If you would like to join us on camera, let me know and I'll make you a panelist, or it will actually ask you if you want to be one. Hang on just a second. You don't have to if you don't want to. So hang on just a second. Okay. Did you have any questions? Or do any of the writers want to ask each other questions? I do have a question.
Yeah, me too.
Actually,
I have a lot of
but
questions.
but you guys go ahead and go first. Also, writers, if you want to drop your socials or your websites or anything like that in the chat, please feel free to do so that everybody in our audience knows where that they can find you. Okay. Okay, well, I do have a question, Zoe. So, you know, your poetry has a lot of kenning and compound words, like leaf thrum and stand swaying, these kind of neologisms, word creation. Why is that important in your writing? And what advice do you have for other writers who want to put more of that into their own poetry and work? And it doesn't have to be just Zoe who answers, like creative word creation in general, right? Pigeon is very much that. So like if anybody wants to talk on that and the importance of that in poetry and dialogue, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, thanks, Misty, for that great question. I'd love to hear from other folks as well. I think that poem in particular, Divinity of Kin, which uses a lot of made up compound words, those particular words felt very, I don't know, I felt like the forest really kind of demanded them of me. And I didn't actually feel like I had a lot of choice as an artist about like, do I or don't I? It was like, no, sand swaying, fish moving, warbler dance. That's what this is. So I tried to take that direction. But I think maybe if I'm to try to explain why that happened there, I think it maybe has something about, I think the effect of made up words is it makes us think a little differently about how things are connected and how we are connected to other things. It breaks the rules a little bit, right? And I think breaking the rules in our language reminds us that we can also break the rules a little bit in how we think about ourselves and how we think about like these made up divisions between ourselves and everyone else or ourselves and the rest of our natural world. And so maybe that's part of what I like about that type of playing with language a bit.
Anyone else? Tara? Such strong poetry and a lot of feelings, you know, like hope, but sadness and frustration. You want to talk a little bit about word choice and craft?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, it was really like as I mentioned during my share, both I had written the poem during like a writing nature poetry workshop, and it was really helpful for me to like think of writing nature not just in this like idyllic, idealized version of nature, but like how the land, how colonization does affect the land, and that like different experience of this same place for like people who like have been displaced from that land and like people who are just who are visiting on like vacation and like assuming this like paradise. And yeah, especially with my poem The Big Island, the first one I read, I'm really influenced by I think feelings of just grief and disconnection with like my family and Hawaii because like both my biological grandparents are from Hawaii and my mother was adopted, so like that creates like a total disconnect from like any family heritage. And then with like my grandfather being from Hawaii, like there was still like a lot of estrangement there too, and like not much like actually passed down to me. So there's a lot of like the sense of you know, trying to like rediscover my own heritage through like through research and through experience like with my immediate family and going to visit and just like really just hearing stories like secondhand, not directly. So yeah, with a lot of my writing process, I think it just comes from just like juggling a lot of really complex like family lineages, honestly, which I was like trying to convey, which is like both that being displaced, but then also like having ancestors that like, you know, were like came to Hawaii from France like in the 1800s. So it's just like, and how just how that has like had a really big impact on I think a sense of like struggling with identity and confusion, but then also like really trying to reconnect also. And then also just like the grief of being like, how can I, you know, like just like that, like trying to capture that kind of feelings of hopelessness of like how to like that like returning to home kind of feeling of like, you know, looking at Zillow and just being like, I can't afford any of these places and like trying to like blame myself, but then it's like, you know, it's not a personal failure to like not be able to like afford things that it comes from such complex histories. So yeah, there's a lot there, but thank you for asking.
So,
It's
Tara,
interesting. Oh, go
oh,
ahead, Vicky. Go ahead,
yeah.
Vicky.
Tara, I just want to say something to you. If you have the cocoa and you have ancestors, you have a connection. And they are there. You know, we say, you know, makikua at the back. That's where they are, standing behind you.
Thank you. That really touches me to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying it to you because I believe it's true. And I'm not the only one. Yeah.
These are the people we carry with us, right? Our ancestors. But I really liked in your poem how you said the guilt for spending money, right? So
Literally
when
spend $5. I'm like, I can't afford this, but even though I can, it's just the guilt.
well, okay, so actually there's two similar questions in the Q&A in the chat that I think everybody would be able to touch on. So Cate and Anna want to know about process and, you know, what the process looks like for you guys. Like for Zoe, you know, does the inspiration and process happen while you're out on the trails? And then Cate would love to hear from Darrell about how he approaches his writing. Yeah, so Darrell, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm a lazy writer. So I wait for the Kumukahua monthly prompt as kind of a classroom assignment to get off my ass and write something. And invariably it leads to something that is totally unrelated to the prompt, but it got a piece started. And so I know that's a pretty lame reason, but like I said, I'm lazy. I would rather be doing other stuff than than working at it. And then the funny thing about it all is that once you get a little germ of an idea, it starts to carry through. You know, wondering what the story is here, trying to figure it out and sort of explore who's speaking, you know, what's happening, and who's replying. So like I said in the thing, you know, sometimes I'm boy, sometimes I'm uncle, but I think it helped me to sort of establish that kind of idea of a dialogue between a boy and an uncle.
Anybody else want to talk about process? Where does the writing happen?
Well, I want to chime in because I do the exact same thing that Darrell just said. I would have to say I don't know if everything I've had published came from a prompt elsewhere, but I would say most of it did. I've had several poems published, and they all came from like my poetry group's prompts, because we do a monthly prompt, and competitions. They all have a prompt of some sort. And whether or not it gets accepted through the competition or not is kind of irrespective. It gives the idea as you're trying to figure out, new things to add. And I would have to say that been a source for a lot of my work, has been prompts from elsewhere. And it starts you thinking, and it starts you ruminating about things. And I would say that especially if you're looking for like, well, where do I get started? That would, poetry competitions and short story competitions, I think, are great ways to get ideas and build a body of work. And then you can spend time trying to get a lot of stuff published. But I would agree with that totally. I totally do the same thing. I don't generally have like these sparks of ideas that come out of nowhere. So I get prompts. I'm definitely in that same category.
Loving being in a group of people who love prompts, actually, because that is true for me. And I've been writing poems for a really long time, like 30 years, and actually more and more I use prompts, and really because what I have discovered is that. But to begin with, I'm not actually that interested in writing poems as an expressive act. If I already know what I think or feel about something, it's like, okay, I already know. And what I'm interested in is what will really spark my curiosity to go place unfamiliar to me, whether that's within or as an act of just curiosity about others' experience or going farther than I've gone. And so a prompt is just a wonderful way to kind of get out of my own way, in a way, to get out of habits of thinking, to get out of involvement in my emotions and my experience in the way I've already defined them to myself, and to get involved just absolutely freshly with something else simply by way of solving a formal problem, something that's set before me, whether there's, a wonderful prompt of try writing something with using only letters with no ascenders and no descenders. So it ends up being very vowely and it goes somewhere by itself, a sort of river of words. Or by, my favorite really is to just sort of be alive to the world of language that we live in and are part of, and draw lines from all over the place, and then see how is it that I picked this one and that one, and when I put them together, what happens? And it's always reflective of me somehow, even if I'm using in language entirely someone else's, because I put them together. I picked those lines, I put them together. So I just love prompts, and they feel it just feels like a very it's certainly a wonderful way to start when I don't have anything to say. But more and more, I just start there anyway, and see where it happens. It creates for me, as I think other people have said, the more exciting work. More and more comes out of that, just sort of giving myself over to something and seeing where it takes me. Mm. Mm.
Kathleen, your story has so many ways to gamble and have lucky numbers. So bingo, horse racing, so so many. What was the process like for that? Were you like sitting down going, how many different ways are there lucky numbers? Like, yeah, tell everybody about that. Oh, you're on mute.
Well, I wanted to, it just kind of was experiment in having some fun ideas come together. And like I said, I did go on a cruise, and during that cruise time, I didn't have to cook, and I didn't have to worry about meals, so I had time to write. So I was very excited about that. And then we did go on that sea trekking adventure, and then I collect my ideas in my journal, and just thinking about how some people have to move. The paragraph I skipped was some people are priced out of paradise. So they have to move back to the mainland because they can't afford to buy a place in Hawaii. So that's why she moved. And then, life happens, and, you're $1 short, a day late. And so she was trying to figure out a way to come up with some money to help out. So she decided to enter the Washington State Lottery. So I had to look up a little bit on that because I lived in Washington and grew up there. And then trying to make all the connections with Chinatown. And also, one other thing is that I once I lived in Hawaii, I found out that where people go for vacation in Hawaii is to go to Las Vegas. And they used to have charter flights directly from Honolulu to Las Vegas. And so that's their paradise. And in a little bit of the Asian culture is, to have all these good luck charms and believing in, just amulets and lucky numbers and things like that. And so I've been around, I'm part Japanese, so I've been around the Asian culture myself, and it just kind of all these different things fit together. But one thing I also wanted to point out or say was that I think the whole idea of having influence from your dreams, and she has this dream about the numbers that are going to be coming up. I think there's like a real thin veil between where we are and where we're thinking or where we are. And sometimes your dreams are like going to another world. And I wanted to put that connection in there because I feel like sometimes when I am dreaming, I am like physically in a different world. And I have very vivid dreams. I know exactly what happened, the colors, what we were talking about and everything. And so I think there's like a different dimension sometimes. And I like to explore that a little more. What do you think?
I've also really loved writing about dreams lately. I think that's been like my #1 prompts lately. Like I just finished writing a manuscript, and yeah, there's like a whole section that's like 7 poems that are all like dream family related. So this imagery is so potent.
I have a question on dreams for everyone. Do you dream in color or black and white?
Color, definitely color for me.
I've had one black and white dream that I remember as a child, and it was like a black and white movie, but otherwise color.
I do not know. And I've asked myself that question. It's a thing I can't remember about my dreams. I don't know.
I think as soon as you wake up, if you have to write them down, then if you don't write them down, like they're gone within a minute or so. So that's why you have to write them down right away, or else you can't remember.
Yeah. Ah,
I don't remember to ask myself. I write them down, but I don't remember to ask myself the question about color fast enough.
Or I write them down and then a few, weeks later, I'm like, what is chicken soup socks? I don't know.
When I'm working on a story, I have characters that I dream about the characters. And then they talk to me and they tell me things, and then, in the morning I like they'll tell me things that I forget. So my characters talk to me in my dreams. So I
I
use
really
those a
like
lot.
that. I really like that. That's really cool. I sometimes have that too.
I just want to circle back to Anna's question for Zoe really quick. So about, writing when you're out on the trails. Yeah.
I was thinking it was almost like exactly what Darrell said, where it's like, the prompt is really important to get started, and then sometimes it goes, further afield. I feel like nature is so often for me a prompt, And I do write a lot while I'm outside. But usually it's often just like a few lines or a feeling that I jot down. And then that allows me later to like tap back into what the feeling was and find the source and flesh out more what I think the poem is trying to say. I love this idea we've been on about dreams as prompts, and I love this idea that like prompts are all over the place in life. If we look at everything as a prompt.